Hello everybody. Welcome to Boomeadow Builds. This is normally the slot that we have Equinox in, but unfortunately we've had a couple of people have things on tonight, and so we don't have the usual run through of D&D tonight, unfortunately. So Equinox will be back on the, I believe it was the 6th of January, I should say. So we're taking a few weeks off over the Christmas New Year period, and we will be back with Equinox on Saturday nights on the 6th of January at 8 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. But otherwise, I thought at least for a small interim, I would fill this spot with some map building, getting back up on getting to do some of that, and just have a chat with you guys and all that kind of stuff. So tonight I will be working on the town/village of Termina in Purgatory in Nethraeg, which is my version of the Hells. So for anyone who has been around for a while will know what I'm talking about. If not, let me know, because I'm happy to talk about my world setting. It's a world setting I've been building for quite a while now, so it is always fun to dive in with it. So let us see. I usually like starting off with some hills and things like this, but how is everybody? How are all of your festive periods going so far? It's always nice to know, nice to hear. I might use these ones instead. I'm not 100% on that yet, I don't think. As you can see, they've got Incarnate's got some wonderful Christmas ones going on. It's part of the seasonal run. It's a bit better. What about these ones? Yeah. Will this provide what I want? Yeah, so how's everybody's festive period going so far? Mine has been okay so far. Can't complain. So yes, for anyone who doesn't know, I build these maps for my Dungeons and Dragons games. The particular game that I'm designing this for currently is called Equinox. It takes place in the 4th era of my world. The time setting is known as post-merge, because there was a cataclysmic event which affected the world known as the Merge, following a group of adventurers who wanted to stop an eldritch titan from rising once more. They were successful, but as with all things, history is doomed to repeat itself. Now, my question with this is, I know that there is a train line that runs alongside this. And what I'm trying to decide is, do I want the train line inside or to run outside of the city? I also know that we have a number of farms as well. Although, I just had a really cool thought about what if I had the train go underground? What do you think of that? Yeah, I think I'm going to do what I originally planned and have this go under the hill of this place. It is going to be surrounded by forest. Find some good grass textures. I don't think I want to go full gothic horror. I think I actually do want to keep it like a grassy pasture. think of that. I'm gonna have to move the whole lot down though. I'm not happy with how that was centered on the map. Definitely don't like the green of the grass now that I'm getting time to sit with it. How big is this though is the question. Gotta turn the size down, I think. And then the other thing is, oh, see, this doesn't look too... What I start to question is how cubey it looks. It's a memory mat, that's not something I want. That's white. Well, this is going to change on the interior anyway because roads and whatnot. Hi there, how are you? Welcome. I hope you're having a wonderful evening, morning, wherever you are in the world. Not really an empty chat per se. I mean, I've only been streaming for the last 25 minutes. Usually in this time slot, I usually have a D&D game, but we had a couple of players have Christmas things on today, so I thought I'd still do some D&D related content in so far as just do some map building for the world and things like this, because I like to provide my players with maps for them to interact with and things like that. So yeah, but it's relatively an early chat kind of situation for me, but yeah, sometimes I do streams and I don't end up with anybody in here with me, and that's absolutely fine. I'm aware that it's also the holidays, so a lot of people have stuff on at this time of the year as well, so it's just nice to have people here. So thank you for joining me. Trying to figure out where I want this railway to go. On top right of the... Actually, yeah, that might even be a better spot. You are correct, I think. Might have it come out there. And I was thinking I was going to have it... because this is a train station, I was going to have it pop up kind of like a... I think I was going to have it pop up a bit like a subway kind of situation. So have it... Well, the question is, should I have it come above ground, or should I just have it, like, for example, the station underground, and they are able to exit via a road, like via a station? Because this particular setting that I'm building for is a slightly more futuristic setting. I say slightly more futuristic. It's kind of our world adjacent, but just really fantasy. Yeah, I agree with that. Definitely makes it seem like a more prudent decision. like that. I might have to put some, I think I'm going to put some stones and stuff in just to tie that together, I think, a bit. But that's that. I think maybe I want to move this though, because I don't like where this is positioned. I think I want it more over here, running like directly in line with the road. I might alter the road. What this is, yeah, I'm definitely going to move the road along. I haven't finished shading the roadside and stuff, and keeping this closer together, because this whole area is kind of surrounded by farm and forest and things like this, so keeping it all together will actually mean that I can put a lot more trees and stuff in. So I can come back in here. Tidy this up a bit. Because even as it is, I'm going to have to change this a little bit too, because it's a little bit narrow. So I'm going to actually erase all of this and move the whole roadway over this way a bit, I think. Like that. That's a bit better. I'm gonna find some gravel, I think. See what this looks like if I make the size really small. Might have to darken it too. We'll see. See, I really like Incarnate because you can play around with the opacity and things. What do I need? I think I might need to make the pebbles even smaller. I'm gonna have to create some darker shadow as well, I think. I don't know if this part is one of the parts that takes me the longest, just the initial shading of figuring out the colours of roadways and things like this. It always seems that this part, you know, really seems to take the longest, but I actually have some of the most fun doing, like the placing of roads and shading of the background and stuff. Yeah, I find it a really handy tool because I love giving my players a map to look at. Also because I stream my games, I find that it's a really good resource to have on stream so people can kind of see what's going on and whatnot. Because I do like the simplicity of the theatre of the mind. But obviously, because we do stream our games, I want to give something visual for the people watching at home as well. So, and I tend to have handouts for all of the NPCs and stuff that I don't show on stream, because obviously I use good old Pinterest for my NPCs. So I don't want to show artwork that's not mine, and obviously Pinterest isn't always the greatest at telling you where they got the pictures from, so I can't give the appropriate credit or even ask the artist in question, and so I would prefer not to. They seem to be taking advantage of their hard work. So, but I do find it very handy as a tool to be able to just describe things a little bit. But yeah, I heavily recommend Incarnate as a map builder. I find that it is really, really useful for my map builds that are more old school fantasy, because there's obviously a lot of assets and stuff. But I'm not against drawing my own assets if I need them. Incarnate has started to say that they're trying to do more sci-fi kind of stuff for more futuristic settings, but I don't know how far along that's going. Just depends what you want your map building for. Incarnate, I'll put it in chat for you. It's not spelt the way that incarnate, the word incarnate is spelt. So it's ink-arnate, like the ink you use in a pen. You can use it free as well. I will point that out. You can use it free. However, their pro subscription, I think works out to, $30 a year. I would have to double check that, but because I use it all the time, I absolutely love it. So for me, it's kind of worth it. And yeah, one of the things I do like about it is you can actually import your own. So for example, if I go up to Universal here, turn off that. It does allow you to import your own stuff for it. See, me. And so I've hand drawn some stuff. I've also been able to import some Roll20 tokens and stuff like this. For like steampunk style trains and things like that I can use for maps and whatnot. So that is one thing that I really, really appreciate about it. So, as the label says, this is a town in Purgatory, which is in Nethraeg, which is my version of the Hells. the reason it is kind of named the way that it is and whatnot is because there was a major catastrophic event that caused the planes of existence to merge kind of together on the same plane of existence. And so we have Enthalemir, which was once the material plane. We have Feawir, which was once the Feywild, and Nethraeg, which was once the Hells, and they all exist in the same planar kind of space. The Hells has become a place where it is not just the dead that live there. The world soul of the world, during the events of preventing the Titan King from rising and whatnot, the world soul basically used whatever power she had to facilitate people essentially going wherever their heart resonated with. And so now we have a number of living people who live and reside in the Hells, not just the dead coming here for processing and things like this. Yeah, hi there. I've had this world setting has been it has taken me about 7 years. Not that I sat down and did that all in one go. I've had several campaigns in it over the course of the last 7 years, and that has allowed for a lot of world building. Like some of the NPCs in the world are previous player characters who have become gods and things like this. The age of the world is roughly 60,000 years old. And yeah, a number of things have happened in that time. Everything from Titan Wars, there has been the discovery of dragons and what that would mean for the world. Even though the initial gods of the world were actually draconic gods, because of events of the story, they didn't realize they were called dragons. Because, yeah, as I said, the events of things that had happened. So yeah, it's led to some very, very interesting storylines. And the players I've been fortunate enough to have in the world have created wonderful characters who have really added to a very rich world lore. And some of these characters have become beloved over time. So the second era of the world was, yes, the discovery of dragons, and the righting of several celestial wrongs, I guess, that had happened to the dragons. In addition to that, then the third era was, we saw the decline of the draconic gods and leading more into the ascendant gods, which are highly revered mortals who gained divinity, basically. And that also led to the time of the Demon War. And then, obviously, the fourth era is the Merge. So, the world has also been destroyed. If we're not counting the Merge, it's also been destroyed an additional time. We had the Starfall, which destroyed the world, the part of the world which had been once known as Azuria. And that became the Ascendant Isles. Whatever was left of that became the Ascendant Isles. And from there, the Ascendant Gods basically created a world in which anything was possible. They created a brand new world, but unfortunately shortly after the occurrence of that, the Demon War happened, and that led to the subjugation of the demonic races by the place in the world known as the LUS, or the Loreador Unitary State, which they were very law-abiding and things like this, but obviously not all was not well, at least as people started to dig deeper. And through that came a campaign in which some heroes discovered I think it was 8,000 years after the Demon War, a group of heroes discovered the Necronomicon and discovered a plot by certain cults to essentially allow the Titan King to rise and to change the very fabric of reality as it was known. And from there, obviously there was a group of heroes that stopped that. And then I think another 1,000 years passed after that, because during that is when the merge happened. And so it's been 1,000 years since the merge, and we now have a campaign set in the Hells, so Nethraeg, and certain groups were sent through here, known as the Imperium, that were a lot of angelic forces, a lot of Asimar from the Laureador and Unitary State were sent here because of their role that they had played in what was happening. But because of what had happened, it had left the Hells very vulnerable. And so the demons formed together to create the Imperium to basically bring order to the Hells and help out the transition between the living and the dead in Nethraeg now. This did mean that they basically have turned people against the demonic forces that ruled Nethraeg. So they've turned a lot of people against the forces that ruled Nethraeg, saying that they are demonic insurgents. And so what the Imperium is now trying to do is essentially... I apologise, you can hear my cat. My two cats are fighting over who gets to sit in my recording booth. So if you hear that noise, stop it, come on. Yeah, a lot has happened. I mean, it's been 60,000 years though, so... and a lot has happened in the last roughly 10,000 years or so. A part of that is... Part of the reason that is so well mapped out is purely because I've run campaigns in that. But, so on Monday nights, I run a game called Ignition Point, which is actually set in the past of the world. And so that's before the Ascendant Gods, before any of that kind of stuff happened. So the 40 years between Ignition Point and when... the event known as the Rise of the Realm Witches happens, in the 40,000 years there, I actually don't know what's happened yet because I've left a lot of room for future campaigns of what could have happened in that time. So, yeah. And that's why some of the world lore is better thought out than other parts. And now we have Equinox being played on Saturday nights usually. In this part, like in this end of the world, it is a futuristic setting where we're seeing modern tech. A lot of jokes that we make, obviously. For example, like, oh, we need to research something. What are we going to do? Oh, well, we're going to pull out our phone or etheric connector and search the web to see what we can find, see if there's anything esoteric that comes up, search forum boards and things like that. So, and part of the reason I did that is because I wanted to challenge myself to see if I could run a modern setting in my D&D world, which has meant that we do have a lot of homebrew that goes on as well. So, yeah. Everything from custom races, custom subclasses, all sorts. We have a lot of custom weapons. Everything from potential tanks, body armor, things like that. Yeah. So, but it's kind of tongue-in-cheek fantasy in the fact that there's still the need for example, I say there's still the need for, but some people still use swords and prefer regular armor and things like this. And, you know, it's kind of done with a bit of hand waving that, well, the people that are using these are the elite of the elite. And while there may be guns, the reality is adventurers are, you know, more skilled at a lot of things. So the idea of being able to stop a bullet with a shield and things like that, you know, there is still that possibility. I think we've got one player whose literal goal is he wants to be the best swordsman in the world. So, and I'm like, okay, we'll make it work. You know, some of the things that I've done are just little changes, like, so for example, I don't have Warforged per se. I have Clockwork Automatons that are, in essence, reskinned Warforged, but there have been some changes. For example, we have two histories. There are two ancestries as to where the Clockwork Automatons can come from. We have the man-made automatons, who essentially are cyborgs, kind of like cyborgs, who have had the soul of various beings put inside them, namely in Ignition Point, and we're discovering this story now. You've got the Clockwork Automaton named Budge, which stands for bioorganic utility automaton with destructive galactic engine. Basically, he is a robot that has the soul of a juvenile elder god inside him. So he is a constructed creature, but then we also have the Clockwork Automatons that were birthed from the spark of Mechanus as well. So, so there are options for basically where they came from, where their thought patterns might come from, things like this. Basically, I see what my players want to do, and we see what we can do to facilitate it, basically, which I think is most DMs in D&D. I don't think I'm doing anything revolutionary. A lot of my players also just really enjoy. We've had a lot of people recently do amnesia stories, which I can give and take, man. But if that's what they want to do and they want to leave it completely in my hands, I'm happy to facilitate that too. I find for some of the weapons and whatnot, so in the Saturday Equinox game, we have a half dragon. I recently received... I obviously back a lot of Kickstarters and stuff because I prefer third-party content, and I recently backed, what's it called? Legacy of the Dragon. And so that gave us stat blocks for half dragons, but it also gave us a monk class, which actually allows one of my players to be a Jedi, for example. And so, you know, we made that work. It meant I had already put light weapons in to my world, with like the crystals and things like that, and different crystals do different types of damage, etc., etc. And I'd already put that in the game, and so we kind of worked on a way to facilitate that and make it work. Because yeah, we run with a heavy leaning towards. We'll run some homebrew, and if we come across something that's just really broken, we'll tweak it and see how we go. Because obviously, the last thing I want to do is completely nerf them, but also you know, my players don't want it just to be a cakewalk, because otherwise then where's the fun in that? So, but yeah, so it's just kind of a bit of trial and error. And yeah, I've got stat blocks for everything from mech suits, various weapons, various firearms, and just things like that that we kind of just enjoy. So it's, especially the futuristic setting, obviously there's always the tongue-in-cheek stuff. So we have like a number of apps like Hextagram, Facebook, Hex, formerly known as Twitter. We also, yeah, just a number of things like that, like Sprig Talk, because, you know, who doesn't love some good tongue-in-cheek humour? For my map bases that I use, just to alleviate some of the stress, so as you can see, I've got a map base under here. I use a generator. Give me a second, I can actually tell you what it is if you'd like. It's the Medieval Fantasy City Generator by Waterboo, which is wataboo.itch.io/medieval-fantasy-city/generator. And basically I just use that to randomly generate maps until I like I get a specific size, I get a specific shape, and then I just save them, and I use those as my bases. Just as a general rule of how I would like things, where I'd like to go. As you can see, it just helps mapping out roads and things like this. Just so I've got a guideline of what I want to do with the places. As I go through and I'm building Nethraeg, you'll start to see that there are different going to be very different color schemes and kind of styles, because we do have the circle pattern that makes up the hills, obviously, and each of those circles has a different name based on the sin that they are representing. So first we have kind of purgatory. Purgatory, it is essentially where people come for processing when they first pass, but also now we also I kind of put my fiends and my devils kind of together, so I kind of combine a little bit of the abyss and the hells together, so demons and devils go together. But it's also kind of like an amalgamation of the Greek and Norse underworld, kind of working on that. For the most part, almost all of the circles are completely, the temperature and kind of atmosphere of the place is, the whole of the hells is humid, apart from the circle of wrath, which I've got to think about this. What is my circle of wrath called? Ooh, that's a hard one for me. So my Circle of Wrath, yeah, that's what I thought. It's called Junpilka. So yes, we have Purgatory, Lisnair, Nemes, Gerehaksha, Junpilka, Dicta, Gezamorg, Kalvamas, and right in the center we have Varot. And obviously they are based after the 7 deadly sins, as well as Purgatory, and right in the center, which is specifically dedicated to traitors. There is a level I have, obviously, as well, because I wanted it to be reasonably homebrew, because I wanted to, within reason, have a little bit of distance between my kind of lore and the Wizards of the Coast lore. I have kept some of the names of the demons, but only like the archdevils that rule the place. I have kept some of them, but only if they are commonly used archdevil names. So, for example, Asmodeus I have kept. He is the archdevil that rules over the hells in general, and he is specifically he's kind of taking on a role similar to, I suppose, Hades a little bit, in the fact that the Titan King, who was had once been one of the Eldritch Titans before the world was created, and in a kind of Titans versus the Olympians kind of situation, he tried to overthrow the Empyrean gods, who were like the old world gods. The old world gods, so the Empyrean gods and the Eldritch Titans, they were all Linorms, so think your big world serpents. Trying to think. No, I can't think of the name of him. The one that Thor has to fight in Ragnarok. Can't think of his name right now. So giant Linorms, basically. Linverms, that kind of thing. And they kind of fought each other. And so the Titan King was the leader of this rebellion force, and they lost. And because of that, he was imprisoned in the depths of Tartarus, in the center of Varot. And Asmodeus and all of the lieutenants and stuff that kind of sided with him, they were all imprisoned in the places between the worlds, and the places that exist between the planes of existence. And Asmodeus was essentially punished for his place in it by being made the jailer of these titans. And obviously he and the demons, the archdevils that sided with him, basically were left to rule over Nethraeg. And obviously there are a number of them that I've changed. I've gone through and changed a number of those gods as well. So for example, I do have Istis in my world as the goddess of fate, although it depends on who you ask, because I use fate very tenuously. It's more, as she describes herself, she is the goddess of opportunities. She puts the opportunities there, and what people dictate as fate, and to turn around and say, oh, well, it was unavoidable. She's like, well, no, all I did was create the opportunity. You decided what was fate by following through. But I call her Neith in my world, after the Egyptian goddess. And she is Neith the Golden Weaver. We also have Chronepsis. I believe he is Ion the Watcher. We have Samael, who is a death god, and just things like this. So, some of the gods I have completely customized names myself. Some I have taken inspiration from real world deities and things like that. But all of the old gods, so the Empyrean gods were all these Linorms, and then we had the elemental dragons who created the world, so earth, air, fire, water, and they were all dragons. Um, so, the number 9 has a huge prevalence in my world. The number 9 and also balance. So, and then somewhere along the line, I started to make other parts of certain stories come alive and things like this, especially with the inclusion of Budge and things like this. There is an ancient philosopher who discovered that there were exactly. And let's be honest, the Greek gods and the Norse gods have some of the coolest stories. The Norse gods I do heavily tie into my giant and Goliath mythology. The Greek gods, not so much as yet, but I do take inspiration from their stories. I just find mythology really interesting in general, and so I find myself looking up Egyptian and Eastern mythos as well, because I find one thing I've always found really fascinating is the similarities and correspondence. The similarities and correspondences between different religions throughout history, and how they kind of correspond and kind of mirror each other. So, for example, a really good example is the Greek Fates and the Norse Norns. There are 3 of them. They are usually depicted as women of knowledge and power, decreeing past, present, future kind of thing. And I'm like, that's really interesting that those kind of things overlap, and it's interesting looking back over it. And I really fell in love with a lot of the stories too. When I discovered the YouTube channel Overly Sarcastic Productions. And I just absolutely love and adore the way Red and Blue explain ancient civilizations. They explain ancient myths, and they just make it really fun and interesting to listen to and learn about and inspire in such a way. I'm like, that would be really cool to do a story about that. So... and yeah, it kind of just leads me to rabbit hole, I guess, down various paths to find out these really interesting stories. One thing I did early on, so if you watch Ignition Point, obviously that is ancient Azuria. And that was created by the elemental draconic gods. Except no one knows their elemental draconic gods until almost the end of the Second Era, when the entity is known as the Realm Witches correct it. And so they're earth, air, fire, water. So very uninspiredly by myself when I first created it, named it obviously the Earth Realm, the Fire Realm, the Air Realm, the Water Realm. Each have their own unique cultures and how they go about things and whatnot. And then I kind of, because as I said, 9 is a really important number for me. So that's 4. So then we have their parents, who... Ahura is the day father, who obviously is supposed to be reminiscent of Bahamut, but then obviously his story like spiraled out as well, and he is obviously not Bahamut by any stretch of the imagination. So he has Ahura, the day father. We also have Shaylun, the night mother, which is obviously Selene, or Saloon, depending on who you ask and how you pronounce it. And then before the 4 elemental dragons were born, I actually also had them have triplets. And so they had Aelia, the glimmer in the darkness, and she is representative of light. which is actually, light is not goodness in this particular setting. Light represents logic in the mind. And then the younger sibling is, she begins as Nephthys, and through the events of the story becomes Takasis. And she is something shadow, I can't remember right now, but she is representative of darkness, but it's not evil. She's not evil. She is representative of emotion and the heart, basically. And then between them was their brother, known as Leviathan, who was supposed to become the god of dragonkind, but through the events of the story, his father had actually yeeted him into the void, gone to the Golden Weaver's tapestry of the world and the tapestry of reality, and carved his name from it, seeking to replace him and things like that. And so because the god of dragons was the god of dragonkind was basically denied his fate. He's the reason no one knew what dragons were for the longest time, and he ended up spending thousands of years in the void, basically, and becoming the god of decay and undeath. There were also some subsidiaries. So we have Felror Morkalorn, who is the dragon of psionics, who is not related to them at all. He is an independent deity who is, when I first started, obviously it was more D&D related, and he was represented by Sardior, the dragon of psionics and things like that. So yeah, I've had some overlapping stuff, and over the last 7 years I've kind of just made it mine. So and tweaking and changing mythos and world lore and things like this, basically to fit the setting. So yeah. I don't think I want it that far up. So yeah, basically it's just been an amalgamation of creating stuff over the last few years and just really enjoying getting to create things. And that has led to, in addition to that, as I was saying, with Budge's storyline, it has led to the discovery of that before the gods, and where even the Empyrean gods so the Empyrean gods don't require mortal worship to exist, whereas a lot of the draconic gods and all that kind of do. However, their power comes from somewhere, and that is explored in the form of the abstractions. So the abstractions are the divinities, essentially, that they're kind of the anthropomorphic forces of nature, I guess. There are 9 of them in the form of, obviously, creation, destruction, memory, reality, elemental, ethereal, chaos, order, and balance. And from there, obviously, things branch out more. I'm just going to save this. Now, while this is saving, give me 1 minute. I'm just going to quickly run to the bathroom and I will be right back.
This time it's not about escaping. We don't feel like it. We don't feel like it. 'Cause we don't feel like throwing it all away. We don't feel like it.
Okay. Welcome back, everybody. Okay, so whereabouts am I? Okay. For the most part. Okay. trade that in for now. Because that's really obvious there, that line. Okay. Now that we've done that, let us... Oh, Beasts and Monsters, they're kind of new. Not something I need right now. They have... I will say, Incarnate's been working on all of their camp and base and kind of... I do like some of the things they're bringing out. Hello, Talmaru! It's wonderful to have you back. Thank you for joining us. Yeah, normally tonight's supposed to be Equinox, but we had a few players have basically parties and Christmas stuff on, so we didn't run tonight, but I thought, why not do some map building? So I can spend some time with you guys and just kind of chill. We'll actually be taking a couple weeks break just from Equinox over the Christmas and New Year's period, and Equinox will be back on the 6th. Yeah, we'll be back on the 6th of January. Equinox and yes, so Equinox will be back on the 6th of January and Ignition Point will be back on the 29th of January. We're having a bit of a longer break for Ignition Point just because Ignition Point's been going for 6 months or so, and just because we run that on a Monday night, we've just I've just got a few things that have come up on the Monday nights, which if we are missing one or two players, we can work around that, but it's a bit hard to run a D&D campaign without the DM. So, which is always the hard part. But yes, welcome, Talmaru. Ooh, that'll be exciting. One-shots are always fun. I do love me a good one-shot. A two-shot. Yeah, I've had a few campaigns that have ended up a bit like that. Before we ran Ignition Point, I believe it was a two-shot. Which the wonderful Mindful Gamer ran for us. So I actually got to be in a campaign. It's one of the things that I both love and loathe about being a DM is the whole conundrum of not being able to play. Like that, and these are all windows. I don't want windows. That's a castle door. Which is good in and of itself, but actually what I want I do like this stone pillar. See, I wish we had more of this style. Yeah, I can understand that. I find it very difficult to turn my DM brain off. But hopefully this year, because so I play in a couple of campaigns by Evil One that we do stream here on Twitch over on his channel. We run the Grung Gang, which is completely a Grung only campaign, which is really, really fun. And I play an absolutely psychotic little Grung. Exactly. And I have a feeling, depending on what happens, we may be moving Power Rangers, because we are also playing a Power Rangers game, which I think that's in a Fantasy Flights campaign setting. So, which is really, really cool. Really enjoying that. I also struggle because I really want a nice... The hardest part is I want to play in a campaign like the campaigns that I run. And a big part of that I really struggle with is finding a DM who is as heavy into RP as myself and just heavy lore, heavy story. Yeah, it's a bit hard when you really want that and you really want to be rewarded with that, and just you don't get mad at the DMs that don't run like that. It's just it does. I feel like I end up holding them to a standard that I kind of, not necessarily that I do for myself, because again, as I said, that would be psychotic of me to do that, but I just want a group of players that I can bounce off the way that I bounce off of my players as a DM. Just get to run with it, get to run with the role play, just be in it. Yeah, I hold myself to a reasonably high standard, and I am aware that I am kind of hard on myself as well with that standard. So for example, I feel like I've really thrown Equinox together in comparison to my previous campaigns, and I feel guilty that I'm not giving the players the same experience. At least I feel like I'm not giving those players the same experience that I had given, for example, the previous State of Anarchy and things like that. Yeah. See, I don't have so much of that problem, finding the perfect song, just because obviously I do stream my campaigns, and so I end up getting stuck in a little bit more of a case of I can't get too hung up on the music just because I have to kind of work with what I've got. Yeah. See, I haven't so much had an issue with players going off, like completely running rogue off of the story that I'd planned months for. My issue that I tend to run into, and I think I said this the other night, and Talmari can kind of, yeah, I can understand that, Talmari. Elistro is such an awesome goddess as well. The problem I end up having is how to describe it? My players, it seems like my players end up overwhelmed for choice, and then I kind of get to a point where I get really frustrated as the DM, because the last thing I want to do is feel like I'm dragging them through the story, going, hey, go here, hey, go do this, hey, what do you want to do next? And they go, oh, I don't know. I've had some issues in the past with players not giving feedback. I'm like, okay, well, what did you like? What didn't you like? What worked for you? What didn't work for you? And they're like, oh no, we're having fun. And I'm like, okay. I completely agree with that, Talmari. I can definitely see that for her. I've really come to appreciate over the last 7 years players who effectively communicate, I think. And part of that is also me learning to effectively communicate. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, and I mean, I do at least understand where they're coming from sometimes, in the fact that of not wanting to, like, being conflict avoidant. Like, I completely understand. I can understand and appreciate that. But it comes into the issues then of, well, hey, I need you to trust me to, like, I'm on your side. I want you to win, you know? And so I want to know what's working for you. So if there's something that you're really not enjoying, I can work on that and do better. The criticism sandwich. I don't think I've heard it described as the criticism sandwich, but I feel like I've heard it before. A big part of me learning to accept criticism from my players and things like that as well has been through the wonderful, through one of our wonderful player. Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I have had ups and downs as a DM where I know that I've made mistakes in the past and I have endeavoured to do better. Like, there has been a number of criticisms I've had put against me, and there have been times over the past 7 years now where I've really tried to grow and look objectively through the hurt that came with the way that some of my players have left in the past, and actually just kind of question what I could have done differently, and being actually objective about that, being, okay, was that fair criticism or was that just unnecessary? Like, there is no way that I could have won that situation. And just kind of trying to improve on that, because at the end of the day, the thing that I want first and foremost for any of my players is I want them to have fun. And I think I said this on Wednesday night. One of the biggest things that I really... Yeah, well, that's exactly it. But I've really, you know, I don't mind walking away from a session going, like, everyone turning around and going, well, that sucked. But one of my biggest criticisms I've now had is trying to really put a firm line in the sand and a firm boundary in the sand of the games that I run, my D&D games. They are just that. They are just games. While I want you to invest in your character, while I want you to be invested in the world and the story, at the end of the day, it's just a game. And if it is causing you any kind of stress, you know, like, if you need to take a couple weeks off because work has become overwhelming or whatever else you've got going on in your life just isn't working in compatibility with doing D&D, let me know. We can work around it. Like, if you end up having to miss sessions because you've just got real life stuff going on, so be it. The game will still be here. We'll be able to talk you through it about what you've missed and stuff like this. Find a really cool reason for your character not have been there for a few weeks or whatever. We can work on all of that stuff, but I don't... Yeah, exactly. I think I said this on Wednesday night that I don't care if my players can't make a game. I don't care if they tell me a minute before the game. Like, don't get me wrong, I'll be a little bit frustrated and stressed out, more the point, just because I'm like, okay, well, now I've got to quickly change stuff on the fly. But I'm never angry at them because, yeah, real life stuff happens. And a lot of the players I play with are mid to late 20s and older, so they've all got real life stuff going on, like, you know, everybody has, but they might also have families, they might have kids, they might have other things like night shift and things like this that they have to take into consideration. And I'm like, okay, so be it, make it work. Like, because at the end of the day, this is something that you are actively choosing to spend your free time on as an activity because you love playing the game, you love storytelling. And like, we have a saying in Australia of, we're not playing for sheep stations. Like, the game might be high stakes, but it should never be real world high stakes. So, and I think one of the hardest things I learned was accepting that sometimes there is just DM player incompatibility. The types of games I run might not be compatible with what their expectations are. Yeah. And that's the thing. It is absolutely fine for D&D to be a break from the real world. But I think we brushed on this on Wednesday night that, yeah, allow it to be a break. That is absolutely fine. Talk to the people in your game and stuff like this, you know, about what's going on in your life if you feel comfortable. But at the end of the day, it's not therapy. Yeah. Expectations of a game. I think that one thing that I've kind of struggled with that isn't... I think I've kind of struggled with coming across players who are so anxious and just so badly want a game that they're willing to say, oh yeah, I'm fine with that. And then getting upset when it hasn't worked out exactly what they want. Yeah, I can certainly understand that. Like, I think we kind of talked about this the other night, that I went actually having that, you know, a document for someone to read, to go, hey, like, these are my expectations for what my game is. I can very happily say I do truly really enjoy the concept of a session zero. I always run a session zero now. And that's when I turn around and say, this is what my game is like. I find out what are no-goes in a game for people. But that being said, I have also known players who have not realised something's an issue until they're in the game. Like, for example, I know a guy who didn't realise... He never really enjoyed spiders and things like that. But he didn't realise how arachnophobic he was until he saw a token of a spider come up on screen. And from that point, I think in any game that we had from that point on, we would refer to spiders as Kermits, because the DM changed the token to a picture of Kermit the Frog. Just because, yeah. Like, don't get me wrong, it's great that it's scary and everything like that, but... if something gives people the ick, that something gives people the ick. But if you're running a game that's like a full-on gore body horror game, and someone's like, yep, that's all good, and then turns around and goes, no, you can't do this, you can't. I'm like, well, why are you here? Because you knew in the offset that this was what the game was going to be like. So, which is why I turn around now and say, look, my world are very high fantasy... high fantasy adventures where you have to want to be the hero, regardless of whether or not that's like, oh, I want to be the hero and be a happy-go-lucky yada yada yada. Yeah, which you're like, oh, that's not gonna work. Tell Mario, yeah, if you can't do spiders or claustrophobia, a game in the Underdark, yeah, that's exactly it, because that's gonna be a predominating fact of it, like. And, yeah. See, I don't turn around and go, okay, well, you've got to be, like, really happy and cheerful and, yes, be a hero adventurer. Like, you can have doubts. I don't have any problem with people playing heroic characters in my campaign that have doubts about being a hero. That's absolutely fine. But they have to find a reason why they want to save the world. And, like... I only put that stipulation in after I had a player turn around to me and go, well, why would I want to save the world? And I'm like, I don't know, because your character lives in it. And that's where they keep their stuff. I don't, you know, like, I don't understand, unless it's explicitly a campaign where you're trying to destroy the world. Yeah, exactly. And I've never understood that. Well, that's exactly it. Hi there. Exactly. Like, you know, an Underdark campaign where there's going to be spiders and claustrophobia. That's a definitely, hey, that's not going to work. But if it's something like, oh, I just don't really like seeing this kind of stuff. So, for example, we had one cat player who was like, hey, like, can we just not have any plot lines where children are hurt? Like, children under the age of 16 are hurt because, you know, because I know that sometimes orphanages and stuff are kind of a thing and yada, yada, yada. And I went, oh, yeah, no problem. Because to them, they're like, you know, I work with kids and this just kind of makes me uncomfortable just talking about this kind of stuff. And I'm like, yeah, no problem. Like, that's not hard to avoid that topic, you know? Exactly. Yeah, and, you know, it's a case of if you can do whatever you can in those kind of regards to make someone comfortable, go for it. But yeah, I am also understanding at the same time that sometimes there are just no-goes that aren't going to work because you're like, well, yeah. So for example, someone turning around and going, well, I don't see the point in being a hero. Well, why are you in my campaign then? Because that is literally what we're doing here. Or, and I have also had players as well who have straight up said, yeah, no problem. And then as we've played, tried to play a psychopathic villain who's like, oh, but my character believes that they're the hero. And I'm like, yeah, exactly. Like, I think, what did I listen to the other day? It might have been the Eldritch Pod Blast. And there was something I really appreciated in that, which is coming across this concept of, okay, cool, I get the fact that you want to play a loner character. Yeah, I get the fact you want to play a loner character. Cool, no problem. Don't have an issue with that at all. Hello, Crumbs! Yeah, I don't have an issue with that at all if you want to build a, you know, a loner character. But you have to find a reason for that loner character to want to travel with the party. Otherwise, what are we doing here, you know? You know, it's not up to the DM to find a reason for your character to stay with the party. And, like, that resonated so strongly with me. Yes, we don't have any Equinox tonight, unfortunately, Crumbs, because we just had a couple of the players who had life events on. So, in the end, we're having a little bit more of an extended Christmas break for Equinox. We'll be coming back on the 6th of January with more Equinox sessions because we realised that they were supposed to be getting on the airship and the train and all that kind of stuff this session, so it wasn't really one that the characters could like be split for. So we decided we're going to have a little bit of a week extra extended holiday, and you know, I figured why not do some map building while we're here, get to talk to you guys, hang out a little bit. So yeah, just talking about D&D and how we all kind of operate in different ways as DMs and how we operate in games. This is a Nethraeg town, so a Hell's town in Purgatory. Do I think the group will go here? Maybe. Who knows? If they do, it will be a lot of fun just to throw some like farm town shenanigans at them. I don't know. Part of me kind of wants to just throw another gremlin encounter at them just for why not before we get into some real serious kind of stuff. Especially, God, for anyone who's seen Equinox, I really fear for the health of this group. So, love them. But I'm like, ooh, this group. Yeah, change the whole plot just to... Which... I can understand to a certain degree about how certain characters are going to interact with certain parts of the plot. Well, just had Oh dear. Yeah, it's I agree with you. I don't understand players who are just like, well, this doesn't work with the story I wanted to tell. And I'm like, cool, I get that you wanted to tell a story, and I want to help facilitate you tell the story that you envisage for your character. Hello, Valcor! Hello, how are you? I bet you're absolutely loving having an extended Christmas break, Valcor, because I know how you feel about missing D&D. Oh, yeah. You'd be surprised at how many people just do not read. Like, all you asked for was like, hey, tell me your favorite color to say you did that. Oh, yeah, it's great. Yeah, poor Valcor. Valcor is probably one of my most diehard players. And the fact that he's having to deal with a Christmas break on this end for Equinox for 3 weeks, but then also till the end of January. And yeah, so Talmari, that's exactly what I was saying. Like, how many players I've kind of discovered how many players straight up are like, they will say whatever they can to just get into a campaign because they are just that desperate for a campaign. Which, on one hand, cool, I love your enthusiasm. But then they're not happy with how the story's going. And they're like, this isn't what I expected. And I'm like, well, it would have been if you actually read the core outline of what the actual story is. And it's amazing how many people don't do that. I know I've created a shadow there, but I actually think I want to bring this out. Yeah, and that's what it comes down to, Crumbs, of if you don't have the time to dedicate to it, so be it, you know? And it happens. Like, I know that a couple of the players I play with have had some stuff on recently, much to Valcor's disgust. But, you know, here we are. Oh, yeah, I totally understand that, Talmaru. The vibe check. Bad vibes. See, there's part of me that has to like dole out D&D to Valcor in like little bits and pieces, because otherwise Valcor's wife would probably get mad at me if I made like yet another campaign. I mean, you're still going to be playing a man with a van, so pretentious with unrealistic expectations that are toxically exclusive. You mean to ask you to read a thing to say, hey, this is all I asked, is to say, did you notice this? Which tells you everything you need to know about how they're going to be as a player. As a player, they're going to argue with you at every front, saying that you... I bet you they were a rules lawyer too, or an optimizer. Which, I will say, optimizers aren't always bad. I will say that. I have come to appreciate that sometimes optimizers are... Yeah, exactly. See, they're the first person to bend the rules for themselves, but if you as the DM try to enforce a certain rule, they're like, you can't do that. And you're like, what do you mean I can't do that? I'm the DM. and they're always the first ones to go, well, no, because I planned this for this. But I will say, I have learned to appreciate optimizers to a certain degree, because you know that they will find any flaw in your plan. And at least you know they're going to read your world lore. They're going to read all of the documentation you put out about your game, which on one hand is great. Oh, Talmaru, I like it to a certain point. I have had a number of optimizers who have straight up blatantly abused me in the past when things didn't go the way they planned. And they then accuse me that I must have done a bad job, essentially. I must have done a bad job or something like this, because otherwise, because it couldn't have been them miscalculating, missing information or any of that. No. It must have been me as the DM not giving them, the opportunity. Yeah, see, I don't mind the whole, give you an opportunity to break my plans. Go for it. Yeah. Which I can appreciate them for that regard. I don't ever get mad at my players for being creative and breaking my plan. Because honestly, that's when I sometimes see the most fun out of it, because I'm getting to see what they want to do, and it's really fun to be outmaneuvered like that as a DM, because you get so proud of them when they do. It's more when I get they will plan for 5 sessions or whatever, and then get yelled at because, hey, this didn't go the way we expected. I'm like, what do you mean? Thanks, Mum. No, you can't hold a lantern. No. Valcor can sometimes be one of my biggest pains in the ass. And I say this with love. One of my most favorite encounters recently was when he was playing Hudson in Ignition Point. And they were up against a ghost. So they were up against this spirit, and I'm like, I think it was a 22 hit? And he's like, no. And he was all smug. And I'm like, God damn it. But that was my first time actually getting to have that level of banter of, God damn it, why won't you let me hit you? And they're so smug. But then the ghost possessed him. And I'm like, gets to be in control of his possessed character, and but he's possessed by the ghost, and so he has to kill the rest of his party. And the party was so excited, and Valcor was so excited to attempt to take these guys out, and they were all so excited, and that was a new experience for me, and I really loved it, getting to watch it. Oh. It was fun, yeah. I still, even now, apologize to Clint for Hudson's death. But I will also be the first to say, I'm like, dude, you made some decisions. We need more ghosts. Well, I'm really excited to see what character... So when we come back with Ignition Point, Valcor is actually playing a new character. Circle of the Shepherd Druid. Furbolg's Circle of the Shepherd Druid, if I've got that correct. Did you know ghosts make excellent bartenders? I did not. I'm wondering if this is a joke. I'm expecting this to be the setup of the joke. Druid monk. Yeah, there we go. And I'm wondering how you've broken it. They like to hand out free booze. Nice. I like that. Yeah, Druid monk. And I'm wondering how he's broken the character this time. I'm like, I'm going to have to find a way to, like, take him out all over again. But at the same time, there's this level of me that I'm like, and I voice this, I'm like, I can't keep just aiming for Valkor. Like, not that I do. I will point out, I don't target Valkor, but I'm like, dude, you just keep putting yourself right in the way. But yeah, they've seemed to really enjoy it. Although I think it did make the group a little depressed because they all loved Hudson so much. He was like the heart of the party. Like his whole goal was just he wanted to be a hero. And so, you know, having to come to terms with that is really interesting. And I'm really interested to see how they're going to go with Valkor's new character. Yeah, everybody but you. You're not upset. Yeah, you're not upset, but everybody else has been quite saddened by the loss of Hudson Hawk. I do wonder about the fate of the world in Equinox though, because he died like he lived, a hero, exactly. And to be honest, there was no better way for him to go out. Let's be honest on that. I do worry about Equinox because I do worry about how many brain cells that group has to rub together at the moment. Between running into trains and licking rocks, I'm nervous. Warlock just needs more input. Well, that's exactly it. Warlock... I think Warlock will be okay once he actually understands more. At the moment, he just doesn't have the information, like, the data required yet. Hey, baby. That's because you play juvenile characters. I'm not going to say childlike, because they're very rarely children, but you play juvenile characters. They're young and they're naive about the world, the ways of the world. Or old men. Just one of these days I'm just going to straight up take one out with a heart attack. Yeah, just straight up take one out with a heart attack. There is a part of me that's wondering what I should do with all these maps beyond putting them in my own world. You're all for it like Chetney, huh? I don't actually think you're playing an old character at this point in time, though. That being... No, because you is quite juvenile, I think. Like, very naive. So, we'll have to see how we go. We'll see how he is encompassed and brought in by the group, to be honest. We'll have to see. Not really, just seems simple. Okay, well, we'll have to wait and see, because let's be honest, do we believe that Cal will get him into trouble? Probably. I think we've all kind of just assumed that Cal is a troublemaker. But, that being said, I will also say Cal has shown an amazing capacity to learn and grow. I'm really interested to see when we come back, because obviously next year we've got a few more levels for you guys to explore character development before we get into the real main plot, and I'm really excited to see where that goes. I think I want to bring this road down, just this wall. I think bring it down there. And obviously we're on to the path of Dark Budge as well. So for whatever that means for the future. I'm really intrigued to see where you guys want to go with it when we come back from break as well. Yeah, I wondered about that, because you guys are all you guys are already arguing about that because of the whole fish thing. Yeah. His new character coming in, you, the druid, he's been very specific that he meets the party when he's fishing, but unfortunately the clockwork automaton Budge, well, up until recently was telling everyone that he was a fish, but he has fishy family, and does not take kindly to people catching his friends and family. which I will say Valcor knows exactly what he's doing when he suggested that. Yes, he knew exactly what he was doing when he was suggesting that. It's groovy guitar. think I'm gonna put in these few little square block things. We'll have a look. Let's have a look. We'll turn the background map off. Okay, so we're okay for now. Let's do some tidy up here. It's fine there. The problem we've got, I think I can, let me see if I can find this. Little masks. Which I think that's fine, but this one here needs to come up, yeah. And then just I might reality is I only really here on the road. There too. Can I turn it that way though? Gotta like maybe stretch that out there. Do one this way as well, maybe that. Like that. There we go. That works at least a bit. Okay. So this is what we've got so far. I think, see how we go, but we'll come back to it next Saturday, I think. But otherwise, this is where we'll finish up. So thank you to everybody for joining me for tonight. As I said, Equinox will be back on the 6th of January if you are looking to join that. But otherwise, it has been great to have you here. I hope you have enjoyed chatting and all of this kind of stuff. So, because I've enjoyed and absolutely thoroughly repeating myself. Thoroughly enjoyed having you guys here to talk to. If you like what I do and you're not already following, please hit the follow button. If you are financially capable of doing so, obviously, or you'd just like to, please hit the subscribe button. It would be wonderful to have you part of the spooky community. Otherwise, if you want to catch up on any of these streams or... That's awesome then. Hi there. I'm glad. You'll have to pop in and say hi, so a reminder to say happy birthday. If you want to catch up on any of these streams or anything like that, you can do so on my YouTube channel of the same name, Boomeadow. Hit the subscribe over there as well. It would be great to have you as part of the community. And if you miss this sessions, you can always catch up over there. You can also leave comments on the videos over there. Otherwise, I hope you drink plenty of water, get plenty of rest, look after yourselves this holiday season. That is incredibly important. And I hope you have a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, or night, wherever you are in the world. I will see you... not 100% sure yet, but we'll see what I'm doing Monday night. I might do more world building, or I might keep it to Wednesdays. We'll see. But otherwise, you will see me back on Tuesday for more gaming during the day if you're around. I'm not 100% sure what I'm playing yet, because we finished up Doldonia on Tuesday. So join us over there to see what's going to happen. Otherwise, I will see you back for more map building on Wednesday. That is a definite. So otherwise, look after yourselves, get plenty of rest, and I'll talk to you all soon. Love you. Bye.